And I do remember thinking that was great. So
You
yes,
want
I
me
know
to email
Velvet's
it to you?
directing it. Yes,
No,
please.
email to you, or I can put it in the chat later.
Okay. Either way, you
Looks
can email me.
Okay,
looks
we're
like I'm gonna
recording.
looks like I'm gonna have to shut down and come back in to get my video. So I'll be right back. Bye.
All right, we'll let you in. Promise. Okay, we're letting everybody in. Recording has started.
And I'll be teleporting to my house later, so I might go in and out of camera, but I'll be around.
All right, Stephen, the floor is yours.
Okay. I was sending that email. Stand by. All right. Thank you very much. So the June meeting of the Oregon Country Fair Board of Directors will come to order. And we'll begin with announcements. Sue.
I'd like to go last.
Oh, last. Well, announcements. Does anyone have an announcement? If you have an announcement, please raise your hand in chat. I think last may be first, Sue.
Okay. Bear with, this is really hard. Shane Harvey very unexpectedly passed on May 19th. There will be a memorial Sunday, June 14th at the Wow Hall in Eugene. Doors open at 3 o'clock. The memorial starts at 4 o'clock, followed by a reception until 8 o'clock. Shane gave so much to FAIR. I admired his dedication and enjoyed working with him. He was kind, creative, and thoughtful. I'll miss him for the rest of my days. So Shane, mana, love you.
Thank you very much, Sue. With that, we'll move to the next agenda item, which is the minutes, adoption of the minutes from the May 4th, 2026 meeting. Is there any objection to adopting those minutes as submitted? Last call, is there any objection to adopting those minutes as submitted? Are we still missing LT?
LT did have something he was going to bring.
Oh.
Not anymore.
I just let him in.
Okay, we're just on minutes, LT. So is there any objection to it? Is there any objection to adopting the May 4th, 2026 meeting minutes as submitted?
Looks like I got here just in time. Okay, yes, I distributed. I apologize, Stephen, that I didn't get you on this list, but I did submit a motion for amendment of the minutes. Let me start with my apologies. I'm sorry I didn't catch the error. Previously, the minutes say that I stated that the board appointed Reggie DeSoto. Not what I said. I did stumble on my words when I was trying to say that Reggie was nominated from the floor, and I said appointed. I mean nominated from the floor. So that's entirely an error. I did submit a proposal for an amendment to the minutes. It just changes a couple of things. One is I'm moving to insert in the sentence that starts a 1995 vacancy wasn't filled until after I requested inserting the membership had a chance to fill it at. This again, you should have all this. And then I changed the final sentence. There weren't enough candidates to fill all the seats, so the board filled the vacancy by appointment. So first thing that does is it removes the factual error. Reggie was not appointed. He was, in fact, elected. And second, it inserts what really was the essence of what I was trying to say, which was that the membership had an opportunity to fill the vacancy in 1995. It's just there weren't enough candidates to do so. And so leaving that portion out essentially took away the essence of what I was trying to get out there. And so to read it in full. And again, that's the only change. Other than that, it would be those two insertions or substitutions. It would be identical to what's currently reading. And so what I'm moving is to amend the minutes to read as follows under member input, LT. Last month, a lot was said about history and precedent, about appointments to vacancies. One thing said was that vacancies have been filled several times. He only found one instance from 30 years ago. A 1995 vacancy wasn't filled until after, and here's inserted language, the membership had a chance to fill it at the next election later that fall. There weren't enough candidates to fill all the seats, so the board filled the vacancy by appointment.
So is there a second to that amendment?
I'll second it.
Okay, moved by LT and seconded by Paxton. Is there any objection? This is a correction if nobody has an objection. Do you have an objection, AJ?
Yeah, sorry. I don't know if I have an objection. I would like a moment to clarify what we're doing here. Are you asking to change the language of the current that our secretary wrote, or are you asking to clarify that? Because I think removing language from our meeting minutes when someone says something is a bigger deal to me than adding a clarification, because I don't want to go down the rabbit hole of someone saying, well, I didn't mean to say that, where they actually said something in the meeting and then going back and removing that, because we can do that all day and cause a havoc for our membership secretary.
Is it possible, LT, to post, normally wouldn't do this, but post and chat? You're saying everyone has it, but obviously everyone doesn't have it right in front of them. Is there a concise way to post what you want to change and highlight specifically what is being changed in chat?
I'll try.
I just want to be sure everyone's clear on what we're doing.
Right. Yeah. I'm not sure how to do that. I mean, I could rewrite
You could
it.
put your changes in square brackets, perhaps. As long
Okay,
as-
sure. I will. I'll do that. But I do want to address just the issue about changing. It was a verbal slip. It was a misstatement that was immediately corrected. I just used the wrong word and I immediately corrected. I'd like to think all of us will grant one another the grace that when we misstate something and it's clear that we just misstated and we immediately correct ourselves, that we're not locked into our misstatements. I think.
Okay, so I want to just so that everyone is discussing the correct information. You're saying that you corrected it on the tape in the recording. You verbally did correct yourself.
Yes, I
And
did.
the minutes, as recorded in summary, are recording the wrong part of that.
That is correct. And I
Okay,
actually,
so yeah, if you
I
can
also-
post that.
I also sent, in addition to the proposal, my explanation and my apology, I sent everyone a verbatim transcript of what I said.
Okay.
And I
I
don't think this then needs to be, if he corrected it in the meeting and it's in the recordings, this doesn't need to be a motion. This just needs to be referred back to our secretary to review the tape and make sure that she adds that into the minutes.
Okay.
It doesn't need to be a motion to change something that was already, it should have been in the minutes. If he actually corrected in the meeting, in the minutes, then our membership secretary can correct it in the minutes.
Well, I appreciate you telling me that. I actually communicated with the membership secretary a couple of weeks ago and was advised that because the minutes were already published in the Fair Family News, that it would have to be by motion. That's what I
Okay,
was told.
and so it is actually normally done by motion. That motion can include, AJ, accepting the changes pending the membership secretaries or the recording secretary's review of the recording to confirm the changes. That would be a way to accept it and still ensure that it is accurate.
Okay, and I'm just trying to
Would
type
that hang on? Would that be acceptable?
Yes, pending the membership's secretaries. Yeah.
Okay, so we're just trying to get an actual written copy of what LT is asking to change the minutes at. And LT, do you have any objection to that part of the to making that part of your motion? pending
I-
confirmation by the recording secretary.
Okay, sure. Oh, yeah, no problem with that. My focus was trying to get this thing typed as quick as possible.
Okay.
My efforts to get everyone prepared in advance, I apologize if they weren't effective.
It's okay.
Maybe I'll just jump in here and say that I was confused. LT, as he pointed out, misspoke. And yeah, I was having a hard time following it. I summarized to the best of my abilities. I'm finally understanding the nuance. I named a name that was named in his statement, but actually the correction filled the vacancy by appointment without naming a name. At first, I was extremely confused by it, but I get it now.
Yeah, my fault.
Okay,
I
so
mean,
we are still trying to have a certain process for the motion, and I'm sorry that it's not available in writing. I'm going to go to the people who are
I'm doing-
speaking and ask.
I'm working as quick as I can.
Right. If your comments, I'm going to go through John, Kevin, and Paxton. If your comments need to really relate directly to seeing the written motion, then please just postpone speaking. John?
Yeah, I'm a little unclear because the way this is bouncing around. First of all, we're talking our recording secretary, not membership secretary. But so is the language that you're wanting to change it to what actually happened at the meeting?
I will clarify.
May I finish?
Well,
I'm happy to have this meeting's minutes say I wanted to correct something that I misspoke at the prior meeting. But if the video is going to be consistent with what LT wants to change it to, then I'm fine. I don't want to revise the history and make it inconsistent with the video. And this came in late enough that I haven't had it for the video. So is the revised language?
So I'm going to answer your
the
question,
video?
John. John, stop. I'm going to answer your question because I just clarified this. This is what I was clarifying. So what he is saying is that he misspoke and then he corrected it on the recording in the meeting. And what was summarized was different from his correction. So it supposedly is on the recording. And our motion now is to whether or not to accept this change pending the recording secretary's confirmation of the accuracy of what LT is asking for. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So,
Okay.
what the confusion is happening is he's writing something to clarify something that's on video.
Yeah.
So we don't need a written thing. If it's on video, the recording secretary can just acknowledge.
Except we do because the recording secretary referred him to a motion and because it is a summary minutes. So it's not verbatim of what happened in the minutes. So because he corrected himself in the meeting, I hope we don't spend too much time on this, because he corrected himself in the meeting and it's a summary, he's asking that the summary reflect his correction and not his first misstatement. So it does, they don't end up being verbatim, so they don't match up that way. Okay, so.
Right. That's why I provided everybody with a transcript of everything that I said, so that if there were any questions, you could look at it. I'm sorry I got it to you today, but it's all there.
So my strong advice here is to have a brief discussion. We're already saying that the recording secretary needs to verify the accuracy of what LT is asking for. So given that, it would be normal to then just consent to the change, because it's reflecting, you have a double confirmation that it reflects accurately what transpired in the meeting. Kevin?
First, I just want to thank Anna for her hard work on the minutes and dealing with us and all of this. And so really appreciate her and her cool, calm head. And so this is weird because it feels like if we're discussing this now, is this going to end up on the minutes? Because we're live and in action and he's explained it. Could it be like you said, just kind of a statement that, like an announcement that ends up in the minutes, keeps the confusion down? I don't know if that's a thing or not. Maybe Anna can clarify for us as well as far as what's actually recorded and not. Because if we're spending minutes and minutes and minutes discussing it, then it's definitely going to end up on the minutes now. And so
it will probably end up
would
on the
matter.
minutes. So it'll probably end up in the minutes as a summary of this conversation, which was discussion about LT's requested change in the minutes. and reflecting accuracy, but not all of this dialogue that we seem to be having.
Right.
So I think
Okay.
we should
So
try and
should make sure we don't end up down a rabbit hole of like now
trying
everybody's
not to.
parsing their own words every other meeting and stuff. But like I said, I'll go with Anna's. I'll leave with Anna. Thanks. Thanks, y'all.
Paxton?
When I was on the board in 1995, and I would like to verify that what LT stated or what actually happened in 1995 is correct. Thank you.
Okay, well, right now, we're only talking about the relevance of changing the minutes, and what we have is a motion from LT requesting to change the minutes, which is our normal procedure, and we have that motion also requires that those minutes will only be changed if the recording secretary vouches for the accuracy of what LT is asking for after reviewing the recording. Is there any further discussion on this motion? Okay, well, I hope we can keep it brief, LT.
Thanks. Something that I thought was really important, and I mentioned it in my posting to everybody today, is Reggie ran over and over and over and over.
Okay, this is only about your change to the minutes, not about the content of what was said.
This is why the change is important.
Well,
because
Point of order.
Yeah, I think we need to just stick with whether or not that's what happened in the meeting. Felicia?
Yeah, I think that if the video is going to get watched back, the minutes are going to reflect that. So, LT, sorry that you felt, misunderstood, and that the part of your speech was, the part that was reflected in the minutes. So it looks like we're going to come back and correct that, and hopefully we get to, because that should happen.
Yeah. So, Anna, go ahead.
I do just want to clarify. I watched the video a lot more than I would like to. I tried my best. LT sometimes talks in circles. Sorry, LT. I find it sometimes. I apologize, but sometimes I find it hard to follow summarizing. That's why one of the reasons why I was doing more of a transcript. As y'all saw, my draft was basically almost a transcript. And then I was requested to change it to a summary, and I did my best. So that was the best I could do. And I do see the nuance now that it's been clarified. So I'm okay with the suggested amendment.
And I will say that everybody knows that you're doing your best, and it's a very, very difficult job. And it's perfectly normal and appropriate for some things to go through the cracks and for certain people to want small changes. And as long as those changes accurately reflect what happened in the meeting, the normal process is for everyone to consent to it. And adding the requirement of a verification simply makes it so that people don't have to get back into the weeds. So hopefully we can do these things without a huge amount of debate, because normally it's nobody's trying to, as long as no one's trying to manipulate the record. So is there any?
We do have a process when Anna
up to the
puts
point
out the meeting minutes to the board for us to review, like weeks ago, right? We have a process in which a board member can then at that point make the changes or request that or send that information out. So we are all aware, not the day of the meeting, being aware of a change that's needed. So we're talking about all this process, but I think it should be important that everyone knows that we do have a process so that this doesn't come to a meeting where we spend 20 minutes over something like this because we get something in an email the day of.
And I appreciate that. And obviously all that process that occurs pre-meeting is before my involvement. All I know is that we have in the past amended minutes, and amending minutes is a normal part. Obviously, what you're saying is there is a better way to do it.
And you're muted.
That is supposed to be followed. I'm not muted, I don't think.
Steven, we can't hear you.
Can you hear me? Can anybody else hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
You're the only one that can't hear me, it seems. So I'm not sure what's going on for AJ there. But in any case, amending the minutes is allowed at a meeting, whether it's the best way to do things or not. I don't know if AJ's frozen, if we need to tell him so he can. Oh, there he is. I see him moving. Can you hear me now, AJ? See if
Can you hear anyone else, AJ?
Can you hear anyone else?
AJ.
Somebody message
Uh-oh.
AJ that it seems to be on his end with his sound, which is going to be hard for voting. Okay. Since AJ is leaving and coming back, and I assume he's about to leave. And since we can't get his vote, we're not going to do this by unanimous consent. So we're going to hold a vote. And of course, I don't have my vote sheet here. So I might need a little help getting everybody here because I seem to be missing my vote sheet. John.
Which
John Steinhardt, sorry.
Yes.
And Trevor Ross. Muted. Trevor, you're muted.
Sorry, I lost my square. Yes.
And Sandra.
Yes.
And John Davis.
Yes.
And Paxton.
Yes.
And Felicia.
Yes.
And Teresa.
Yes.
And Kevin.
Yes.
And John Govsky.
Yes.
And LT, did you want to abstain or vote?
I think I should vote, yes.
Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Who am I missing? And then AJ, can you hear us now? Did you go and come back?
Yeah.
Okay. How do you vote?
I missed the last part, so I'm going to abstain.
Okay. And who am I missing? I'm missing one board member. I think I have 11.
Indigo is not here.
Oh, Indigo's absent. Okay. Thank you. Okay. And so the motion passes with Indigo absent, AJ abstaining, and everyone else voting yes. The minutes are approved pending the confirmation from the membership secretary. Is there anything else on the minutes from the May 4th, 2026 meeting, or is there any objection to accepting them as amended? Last call. Hearing none, the minutes are adopted as amended by unanimous consent, and we're going to go to member comments. John Steinhardt.
Yeah, I just wanted to say at the last meeting, there was a speech by one of the members asking us to publish every email that the board receives. And I just want to assure the membership that your emails to us are confidential and don't be put off on emailing us, because at the moment, there are certainly no plans to share them with anybody else. Thanks.
Okay. Coyote.
Hi, thank you. Good evening. My name is Coyote Conley. I'm a fair elder, and I'm here to use my 3-minute monthly allotment. Thank you for this opportunity to address the subject which I touched on a few months ago and will revisit now in a slightly more specific manner. The subject is fair family elders, and my recommendation this evening is that you, in possible concert with our executive director, drop the restrictions against 2 of our elders and allow them to return to our fair family. I'm only familiar with 2 cases. There may be more, but those are the only 2 I'm familiar with. They have experienced the loss of active membership for a great many months, stretching into years, and it is time that we, with you as our elected representatives, demonstrate kindness and compassion and allow our brothers to be forgiven and return to our family. Some scientific studies regarding forgiveness for you to consider. People who are more forgiving have fewer health problems. Forgiveness leads to less stress. Failure to forgive is a major risk factor for heart disease. People who imagine not forgiving someone show negative changes in blood pressure, muscle tension, and immune response. People who do imagine forgiving their offender or offenders note immediate improvement in their cardiovascular, muscular, and nervous systems. Simply stated, forgiveness offers a great many benefits to those who practice the simple kindness of forgiveness. As chosen agents and representatives of our FAIR family, you have an opportunity to bring increased health and healing to the family whom you have pledged to serve. As we begin to head down the final stretch before our essential event opens in July, this is a most meaningful time to practice the art of forgiveness and, with compassion, kindness, and understanding, allow these elders to return to the land to which they have given so much. Please understand that while we forgive, we still hold accountable those to whom we are extending the blessing of forgiveness. Taking the first step of forgiving, we then allow the door of atonement to be opened. And atonement, when broken down thusly, at 1 mint, is at 1 mint. It's becoming at one, healing what has been fractured, broken, or separated. Forgiveness blended with atonement will present significant opportunities towards the healing of our family. One final note, I have incorporated the study, the teaching, and practice of forgiveness in my professional and personal life for over 35 years. As always, I welcome opportunities to discuss this matter with any and all of you. Thank you for your Thank you for your time, your attention, and consideration to this recommendation. Thank you. Bye now.
Thank you, Coyote.
Uh-huh.
Peggy.
Hi, I'm Peggy Renfro, and I've been part of the Fair since 1981. And I have a question. Where's John Silvermoon? Remember John? Everybody knows he was on and off of the board since the 1970s. He's the archaeologist that saved the Fair when the state wanted to put a highway through this land in 1986. He coordinated dog control. Honestly, I'm unsure of everything that John Silvermoon accomplished for the Oregon Country Fair, but I do know what happened to him, and I know why we have missing persons in our family. So in the early 2020s, some of the top administration of the board developed a vendetta against John. So he endured the gaslighting, the misrepresentation, the lies, and then in 2023, they attempted to recall John. And then John won that recall. And they never published it in the Fair Family News or in the minutes. So then in 2025, while John's battling cancer, and in the same vein, they kicked John out of the fair. Imagine John Silvermoon, who had volunteered for the Oregon Country Fair for decades, is being ostracized and disrespected. I do want to thank Lisa Parker, Paxton, Sue Theolis, Ann Rogers, Loris Taylor, and those that whom I'm unaware of that serve the Country Fair Board with integrity and kindness. So, So don't believe what I say. Well, I want to say, wow, when we have to deal with corruption, vindictiveness, and lies every day in this country, we deserve a country fair board that's guided by kindness and integrity. So don't believe what I say. Research the history in the minutes, in the notes, read the old Facebook post, read Susie Prozinski's book, Brigadoon of the 60s, where she talks about the fair, the highway, and John. Listen to Aisha Elliott's podcast.
Okay. So there's your time is up, Peggy. Thank you.
I need to say something here,
Yeah.
Stephen.
Yep.
I need to. I'm going to use my position as president.
Yeah,
and I
that's
need
fine.
to say something to clarify, so this doesn't continue.
Yeah.
This is not an opportunity for. Yeah, this is not an opportunity for folks to do what we've been asking the board not to do with each other. And I need to clarify, as a victim of John Silvermoon, which many of you don't know, who put his hands on me in my acting position as president, physically assaulted me as I in my role as president, that many of you don't know. And I went through a long process of trying to not only forgive, but also come to some sort of arrangement with him where he could maintain his membership and things. He refused to do that. And so it's being known publicly because the board is not allowed to say a lot of things. But as the victim of this incident, I went through a 2-year process with Mr. Silvermoon, in which he refused to not only apologize, but acknowledge in a real way his aggression towards me that ended up with him physically assaulting me. So you guys can I see people are posting gaslighters, so it's okay. It's okay if you feel that way. But I want you to understand that the truth is the truth. And many people witnessed it, including the board members that were mentioned earlier. And I am tired as a victim of hearing this narrative that is incorrect and false.
Thank you, AJ. So I was going to say the line is a little hard to find here because we don't talk about personnel matters. We certainly normally would not talk about how any of this came about, and yet we need to let people air grievances. But it was very hard to find the line there with Peggy's comments. I understand how she feels. I also understand how AJ feels. I would ask that we try and avoid such things in member input. I just couldn't find the line there to enforce. But I have to say that Peggy's asking questions which can't be answered by this board beyond what AJ already provided. And again, please only use chat for hands. It's not a place to start arguments or other comments on the side. We're supposed to be focusing on those people who have the floor. Anne. Peggy, if you continue to do that, we'll have to have you leave the meeting. Please stop posting in the chat. Anne, go ahead.
Okay. I just want to say at Elders at our last meeting, we discussed when will the board have hybrid meetings. In 2022, a motion was passed by the board in regard to hybrid meetings. Research was conducted, which is in the February 2023 Fair Family News and meetings, as well as some, I think in the March too. As the Stanford Graduate School of Business has pointed out, it is Zoom type meetings are no substitute for face-to-face communication, especially where creativity is concerned. And I think we build ourselves as creative. I like to think we are, because we think outside the box. And when it comes to the spontaneous and collaborative nature of coming up with new ideas, so I hope that we can begin to look forward to developing a hybrid meeting system for the board. Thank you.
Thank you, Anne. Lisa Cooley.
You basically answered my question. I just was curious about what topics you bring as members. In my opinion, bringing something like we just heard seems extremely inappropriate to bring in front of the board. It seems like the wrong place to do it. That's all I have to say.
Understood. And the thing is, we try not to over censor, and people should be able to bring grievances. So it's very hard to find that line. I appreciate what you're saying, and I'm reflecting on where I was at with it, trying to do my best. LT.
Thanks. Going back to, I think it was the first member comment, which was about a request last week or last month that emails from the membership to the board should be made public so that other folks can see them. And the what was said tonight was to the membership was essentially, don't worry, we're not going to show anybody your emails. I'm not sure whether everyone who sends their opinion to the board wants it to be kept confidential. I know that the person who spoke up last month clearly didn't, and he does communicate with the board. And what I would encourage the membership to do is to include in your email, I would like this made public, or I would like this kept confidential, so that we can start to get a feel for the facts on this. My guess is that folks who speak up by way of email, generally speaking, would like the membership as a whole to know their position on things. So I'd be interested, again, I'm just reaching out to the members here to say, include it in your email, but that goes back to the more general proposal, which is let's get more of our pre-meeting discussion and deliberation out in the open, and get more folks up to speed on our discussions and issues before basically before the bread is already baked by the time we get to the meeting. So that's it.
All right, thank you, John. I hope we can not go tit for tat here. We're just
Nope, just two quick things. Having read the paper and not just the abstract, which I know is behind a paywall, it actually doesn't really support what people are saying it's supporting about hybrid meetings. I think that board meetings used to be different before my time on the board, and they are the business meetings of the fair now. They are not creative meetings where we sit around and try to come up with ideas. They are where we come up and vote with motions on that have already been developed. And the paper is pretty clear that there's no difference between in face-to-face and remote meetings in that case. And I do want to make the point that the board minutes and the board mailing list are not newsletters to the membership. We have the Fair Family News for that. People that want to be heard can post things there. Thanks.
Thank you. Last call for member comments. Seeing none, we'll move on to staff report. Kirsten.
Good evening, everybody. I hope you're getting excited for the fair. Been on the site for the last couple of weekends. Things are getting busy. Main camp opens next Saturday, and we're really excited. We got everything in place, and we're ready to start building the fair. So I hope to see you all out there over the next coming weekends. I went ahead and published the staff event cycle schedules. Again, I'm not going to read them because we're running a little behind time. So I'm just going to skip over that, but it'll be published in FFN just so everybody knows where staff is at during the week and what days they are working. I'm going to give you an election update. We do not have a membership secretary yet, although we do have a candidate that I'm hoping the board will meet with soon. So I'm going to run some election update information until we have a membership secretary to do that. As you know, we will be having an election in October. So on July 31st at 8 p.m. is the deadline to submit advisory positions to be placed on the October ballot. August 16th at 8 p.m. is the deadline to submit candidate statements for publication in the voter pamphlet and voter information section in the Fair Family News. September 10th At 8 p.m. is the last day to sign up as a voting member to vote in the 2026 elections. Ballots will be mailed in mid-September. September 27th at 4 p.m., get out the vote. We'll have a candidates forum. Send your questions for candidates to GoTV at OregonCountryFair.org by 10 a.m. on Friday, September 25th. October 1st at 8 p.m. If you haven't received by 8 p.m., if you haven't received your ballot by this date, we may not have your correct address or you may not be on the voting member list. So contact elections at OregonCountryFair.org as soon as possible to check on your ballot. October 10th at 6:30 p.m. is the annual membership meeting. The agenda will include the State of the Peach, the Treasurer's Report, and board candidate statements. The meeting will be held in person at the Unitarian Universal Church in Eugene. There will be a YouTube live stream to view the meeting. The Elections Committee will be at the Eugene office from 4 p.m. to 5:30 p.m. on that date. So please come to the Eugene office if you need help with a replacement ballot. You can drop your ballot off at that meeting. October 17th, ballots are due by 8 p.m. at the fair office. Ballots received after this time will not be counted. I list the Eugene office address. October 18th, 2026, ballots will be counted with results posted upon completion. You can now, we're very close, I should say. I haven't seen it quite yet, but we're getting very close to having membership registration via Sunshine. If you meet the requirements, you'll be able to click on the membership button at the top of the screen. And if you have more than one credential identity in the system, please change to your personal identity to initiate membership. The volunteer crew has closed their applications, but are still working with crews to fill volunteer positions. So please reach out to volunteering at OregonCountryFair.org if you are a crew that needs volunteers. The Sunshine database will close on July 3rd at midnight. After that date, we do everything via the sticker booth or inventory yurt on paper. Wristband books will be printed on Sunday, July 5th at the Eugene office. You can also go to the, you can log in. I've given you the web address for the .net site and the web address for the training videos. And if you need help, please email Sunshine Help Desk at OregonCountryFair.org if you discover a bug or something isn't working correctly. Contact Booth Reg or your coordinator if you forget your username. Coordinators and booth reps need to turn on the payment option located under Settings at the top of the screen when they are ready for their crew or booth mates to pay for inventory assigned to them. And you can now email your crew or booth members through Sunshine, and instructions are on the .net site. In regards to event management, I've listed the Culture Jam dates, which is Tuesday, July 28th through Tuesday, August 4th. Teddy Bear Picnic is scheduled for Sunday this year, August 16th. And the 2026 annual membership meeting, as I stated, is October 10th at 6:30 p.m. at the Unitarian Universalist Church. As I mentioned, the main camp opens this Saturday, June 6th. The site has been closed except for pre-fair working crews. We ask that non-pre-fair working crews schedule work parties, no more than 2, that are eligible for meals in the kitchen. And you can register your work party. I have given the link in my report. Gates are open Monday through Sunday, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. The new kitchen roof looks amazing. I want to give thanks to David Partlow and David Tipton of construction and all the volunteers that worked on this project. Your efforts will benefit the kitchen and all the volunteers they feed for many years. The board approved a water system capital improvement project. We are working on that, and we will launch into it more wholeheartedly in August. I've kind of reported on this before, and I'll just not read all of it because I've read it already before. It'll be in the Fair Family News. Also, the EAB reminder of the guidelines on invasive species and wood. The key takeaway here, I'm not going to read it all. I've read it the last 2 months. The key takeaway here is don't bring firewood or any wood to the site. If you bring wood to the site, it will be inspected and could potentially be turned away. As for marketing, tickets are doing okay. We are a little softer than we were this time last year. We have sold 11,106 tickets as of this morning. That equates to 1,856 3-day tickets, 836 Sunday tickets, 2,481 Saturday tickets, and 2,221 Friday tickets. We're off pace by just about 5%. but we're coming into our big push now. And so we're starting to see ticket sales ramp up. The last couple of days have been the highest ticket sales we've seen the whole run. And so here comes the big push. As we mentioned before we got on the recording, we have a huge Sunday lineup. It is the OCF All-Stars Bob Weir celebration. We have some great names playing on Sunday, and that's already starting to show improvement to Sunday ticket sales. Today, we launched the stage lineups, and so this is usually when we start seeing a real increase in ticket sales. As a reminder, ticket sales go to full price, which is $60 a day on June 16th, 2025. So if you know anybody who wants to get some tickets, tell them to do it soon at $50 before they go up to $60. I have great news to share. LTD, we have signed our contract. We have LTD service this year. That was a rough one. It was tough, but we got her done. And I want to give big thanks to Floyd Prozansky for helping get us across the finish line. One thing that is troubling right now is that Verizon has not committed a cow to us. T-Mobile has, but Verizon has not. And so we're working all of our back channels to get them to bring us a cow. And I'm very confident that we will get that. But I just wanted to give you a heads up that sometimes things fall into place and sometimes you have to fight for every inch. And this year seems to be a year where we have to fight for every inch of everything that we need. So it's been a little more difficult than normal. In regards to permits, we got our outdoor assembly permit for Farside is approved, so that's done. And the only thing outstanding is our right-of-way permit. It's just Lane County's being slow. It's the same permit we get every year. We just renew it for 5-year terms before we have to apply again. So everything's looking good on this side. Super excited for the fair. Looking forward to seeing all your happy faces on site. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. And we'll go on now to the treasurer's report. Hillary?
Yeah, thank you. And I'm getting excited for the fair, and I'm sure everybody else is too. I'll just do a few reminders about all this money that we're going to spend. This next 6 weeks is when most of the crew money gets spent, and that's hundreds of thousands of dollars. So the coordinators, especially the new coordinators, might not always be familiar with just how to get that money spent. We talk a lot about, if you're going over budget, talk to your liaisons, either your budget liaison or your BUM or your staff liaison. But the mechanics of spending it, you might, if you need a little bit of help on that, Kirsten and Melissa, me as backup, could help you get familiar with that. A lot of coordinators get reimbursements, and there's a reimbursement form on the .net site that you can use for yourself, and you as coordinator will also fill it out for anybody on your crew that needs a reimbursement, and you have to okay it. But there's some other ways, like maybe you and your crew don't want to put the money out. You can talk to Melissa and Kirsten about, is there a charge account? Can they use a fair charge card to make a large purchase that you don't want to put the money out for? Sometimes some of your purchases when you're on site, you might be able to go to QM and use the runner. So in general, we have a lot of people doing reimbursements, but don't think that's the only way. And if that way doesn't work for you, be sure to talk to Melissa and Kirsten about it. And just a reminder, we have moved up the reimbursement date. It's August 31st. So if you are using reimbursements, get all your forms in by August 31st so you can get reimbursed this year. If there's something unusual about your budget or a capital project that you need to be spending after that, get an exemption from that. That will come from Kirsten to allow you to spend later into the year. That's my main stuff. I won't keep you too long, but I'm going to put a plug in for trying to find a membership secretary. I'm glad there's a candidate. I think this is a critical time that we have a good membership secretary. Elections coming up, and this transition into the electronic voting and membership. We just really need somebody who's got that focus and got the skills and trying to master our system and work with everybody else who's involved. We need that voice of a membership secretary. So I really, really hope we'll get one. Thanks a lot, everybody. Look forward to seeing you on site.
Thank you. And now we will move on to committee and work group reports. Is there any objection to accepting the committee and work group reports as submitted? Last call. Is there any objection to accepting them as submitted? Seeing none, the committee and work group reports are accepted by unanimous consent. And we will move on to old business. Grant ratification conflict disclosure process. Who would like to make that motion? Teresa?
Thank you. I was trying to put my actual hand up. That was silly.
Point of order, did we miss agenda review?
We did miss agenda review. It went from minutes and I jumped over it because it looked like it was the same thing. Is there an issue for agenda review? My apologies.
I don't think so. We didn't do it.
Yeah, that's true. And I missed it. Is there any objection to the agenda as submitted since we're already in it? Okay, retroactively then it's approved by unanimous consent.
Can I make one comment on the agenda?
Sure.
Which is that the bylaws motion is on as old business. There's some theory that we have a policy that says bylaws changes have to be new business or old business for 2 months. While I've never seen that policy in writing, I'm expecting that we are not going to vote on it tonight. I don't know what we need to do to push it to the next meeting.
Either it is, so I'll have to take a look, but either it is not valid to be as old business if it's required to be on for 2 months, or you can simply postpone it to next month.
Yeah, I think we need to postpone it till next month.
Well, we can do that when we reach it since we didn't do it in
Okay,
agenda.
great. Okay, thanks.
So let's go back to grant ratification. Teresa, you want to speak to the motion?
I do. Thank you.
Let's go ahead and get a second, and then I'll have you speak to it. Is there someone who would second the motion?
I'll second.
Who's that? Trevor?
Yeah.
Okay, moved by Teresa and seconded by Trevor. Go ahead, Teresa.
So we have spent a few months and a lot of time working with committees to get to the place that we are tonight. And our process is to design 2 core board responsibilities that we can make sure that conflict of interest determinations related to grant making are clear, and we can create a system for ratifying funding recommendations developed by the committees. This motion reflects 8 key things that we are trying to do. We want to minimize public discussion of applicants by encouraging questions and concerns to be addressed in advance. This was a really important thing to our funding committees, that people would feel free to apply for the different funds without feeling like they were going to be publicly discussed. We wanted to provide a clear communication pathway between the board and committees. We wanted to ensure that committees have an opportunity to respond to questions before ratification. We wanted to distinguish conflict of interest considerations from questions of mission alignment. Okay, so we wanted to really clarify what is in fact a conflict of interest, and what do we mean when we say mission alignment. And then we wanted to provide for advanced conflict review, again, keeping confidentiality maintained. We wanted to respect these committees that for 30 years now, 30 plus years now, have been doing an amazing job, and to preserve their authority to determine the final allocations within an approved funding cap. We wanted to improve timing and efficiency by using a consent calendar, although that is not a part of this piece of motion. That's the next one now, but we split it into 2 pieces. And we want to remind that this particular proposal reflects extensive discussion and revision, is intended to establish a clear and workable process going forward. So do you want me to post it? It's a little bit wordy in the chat.
It's still the same as what
No
was
change.
posted on the network, so everyone has access to it already.
Okay. And so the gist is 3 things: that the committees will review applications and develop funding recommendations through their established processes. Excuse me. We defined specifically what conflict of interest means. We went through how we would do ratification process. The committees have had to adjust their schedules to make sure that their timing works with adding this layer in. And so I do hope that we can come to some sort of an agreement either this soon to honor the fact that they need to get their schedule together to make sure they have time to do their job. And there is also a commitment in this motion that the board will not publicly reevaluate or debate the merits of individual funding recommendations. That's my summary of it.
Thank you. Is there any, so John, I assume that was on the agenda motion, your hand there. So we're in member input on this motion. Is there any member input on this motion? Any member input? Last call. Seeing no one, we'll go to board discussion. Is there any board discussion on this motion? Raise your hand in chat. Paxton.
I think this is far too verbose. I'm going to probably vote for it because I think as process it's good, but I think it's somewhat unnecessary. And I am more inclined to trust the committees than try and set down more regulations for them to follow. That's my own personal belief. I think it's too verbose. Anyway, I will probably vote for it. Thank you.
Thank you. John Steinhardt.
Yeah, I would actually, I'll make a number of comments, but really what I'd like to see is to postpone this for more work. That as written, it doesn't take effect until 2027. And I think it does need a little bit of work, and I think we have the time to do it. There are a number of issues I have with it. Not the general intent of it, but the actual wording, which I think doesn't accomplish what we want. For example, it says that, this, I'd have to find the exact words, but committees must follow Oregon Country Fair's conflict of interest standards as defined in this motion. Well, this is not defining Oregon Country Fair conflict of interest standards. We don't have those. This is defining specific standards for specific committees. And if we want to have conflict of interest standards for the entire organization, that's fine, but this isn't really the place to do it. There are some timing issues in here. For instance, it says disclosure forms must be submitted in advance of committee deliberations. I agree, but it's got to be more than that. The board has to actually work through these disclosures and approve conflicts of interest before committee deliberations. Just submitting the forms is not enough. There's a couple of things that I find concerning that I recognize why committees don't want us discussing or rejiggering their allocations in a public meeting. But I think putting that into a motion conflicts with the bylaws that basically gives the board the prerogative to do whatever it wants with committees. So this motion can't supersede the bylaws, that if you want to change the bylaws, change the bylaws. The last thing that really concerns me is I'm very conflicted about doing the conflict of interest processing in secret. Right now, and I haven't gone and searched the whole history, but for the last several years, of course, George has always stood up and had his conflict of interest dealt with in public at the board. I remember when Cafe Mom was taking over the Liberty Coffee booth that the people involved disclosed the conflicts they had because there was a board member involved at board meetings. I'm a little concerned about having two different standards here, one for who has to disclose in public and who has to disclose in private. And I'm a little concerned because a lot of people are saying we need to be more transparent. Makes me uncomfortable to add another thing that's private. So I'd really like to postpone this to work on it more. I did send a lot of emails out to the drafter, and I appreciate their hard work, but they were basically too busy to answer, and maybe post-retirement, there'll be time to work on it. Thanks.
Okay. All right, thank you. Teresa.
Wait.
Yeah,
John, not
Yeah.
necessary.
yeah.
That wasn't okay, John. We're gonna call everybody out. Just let's be kind.
Yeah, specifically, John, I was sitting there trying to decide if I should say something directly, but specifically, there's no reason to say didn't have time for it or assume whatever cause you didn't get the response you expected. It's just unnecessary jabbing.
No, I apologize. I thought Teresa had already said how busy she was earlier in the meeting.
But no. Okay, Teresa.
Okay. That was like day before yesterday. So you sent it out at the very last minute. So I think I responded beautifully. So I'm feeling really good about myself that way. Anyway, I don't have a lot of energy about if in general this board really wants a little bit more time with this. I wouldn't want it to be a long time because I want to honor the work of the committee members who they do need to set a calendar. So yes, it wouldn't begin until next year, but they have pre-work to do to get ready for that. And they need to prepare. And I would really like to respect them with that. However, if everybody feels that they want some more time with it, I'm certainly not going to have an issue with that. And yes, I would like to acknowledge that it's verbose. That is one of the things that happened in the meetings that we had with the committees. Every time we would get somewhere to let's get this concise and clear, it was no. We want it spelled out exactly what that means because they really felt that honored them more. So what you see in front of you is substantially less verbose than where we began. But if there's some language cleaning up that people feel is substantive and will actually change things, and they want to do some more work with that, I certainly want this to be something that works.
Thank you very much. LT.
Thanks. If the committees need this done, I'm cool with doing it. I'm also always happy to see additional editing going on. The issue regarding the authority of the board and the bylaws, Article 7, Section 5 on committees, the first sentence says the board may appoint committees and delegate such authority to the committees as it deems necessary, proper, or convenient for the effective, lawful, and beneficial operation of the OCF. So I think our power to delegate is fairly broad. And so all I got from this was that it is a form of delegation. And so I don't see that it conflicts with the bylaws in any way.
Thank you. Sandra? You're muted.
Yeah, thanks, LT. I was just going to read that same thing because it expressly permits us to allow the committees to do any work that we feel is needed or necessary. So I don't think that there is a bylaw responsibility. And one of the things, we did a lot of talking to these to the people on the philanthropic committees, and they're very detail oriented and they're very conscientious, and they really needed to know how it was going to work. And so we got into the weeds with them and to make sure it would work for them and it would work for the board, and that we would get the work of the board done in a timely manner. And, trying to create a timeline for them, we had to work back from the due dates to see what they would have to change in order to meet those dates. And there isn't all the time in the world to get this done, not at all, because they have to start putting together their RFPs at a certain time and know when to send them out. So I don't, I think that the very latest we could take this up is at the June-July meeting. And I really hope that we can pass it tonight. I think this is a reasonable, well thought out it is a little bit weedy, but we were working with the committees to help them feel confident in that they would be able to do the job that they felt they should do, and giving them the means to do that. So I really hope that you can support it. Thank you.
Thank you. Trevor Ross.
Yeah, just a quick comment. I was, when we first began this this policy proposal, there was a fair amount of pushback from these committees, and so we did our job and get it down to that level. And Teresa and Sandra, really took that on. I was in talks with some of those people, and there were meetings that were going to happen, and then it became clear that it was sit down and listen. And I wasn't included in any of that as it moved along, but what Teresa and Sandra were feeding us around what was going on, I think was is incredible. I mean, it shows that we wanted to listen and work from the committee and then bring it up, instead of do the reverse where we take it and we just move it down on them. So I'm prepared to vote for it, and also happy to amend if things aren't workable. And I think we have that opportunity, but I think to respect their needs around their timeline was what I took away from the conversations I had. And so that I think at first they were offended by this, but I think we gained their trust when we moved it down to allow them the voice to help craft the policy. Thank you.
Thank you. And AJ.
Yeah, I want to second what Trevor just said, and I want to add a little piece too, that I think in this process, not only did we respect their processes and what their needs were, but it worked the other way as well. Sandra and they did a very good job of letting them know what the board needed and the reasons why the board was addressing the situation. So I think there was respect all around, and there were lots of conversations. The way compromise works is everybody has to give a little bit and get a little bit, and I think ultimately, when I look back at what we have here, it's probably not the best. And like Trevor said, we can always go back and fix things should we find out they don't work. But it was a lot of process to get here, and people gave and got.
Thank you, AJ. Kevin.
I won't keep everybody long. I wanted to echo the same thing. I really appreciate hearing the explanations, from Teresa and Sandra, as far as how the process went and the whys of everything, as far as, what the committees needed, working with them on that ground level. And so I think it's great. And it explains why it's so verbose, and that's what they needed. And if it keeps us, from having to keep coming back, and I'm sure, like you said, let's get it started and see how it goes, and then go from there and get them to work on it so that we can tweak it if need be. And I appreciate everybody making this happen. It's very cool stuff. It's nice to kind of work with the committees, for once, and get it right. Maybe the first time, maybe. And so, thank y'all for your hard work. Appreciate it. I'm definitely down. Let's get this done.
Thank you, John Davis.
Thanks for all the comments. I think this is a very important conversation, and I support this motion. And I think there's been hard work accomplished, and I just really appreciate what everybody has done. So thank you.
Thank you, John Steinhardt.
Yeah, I wanted to say that, yes, I did send some feedback on this motion a few days ago, but I also sent quite a bit ahead of it becoming new business that wasn't dealt with. I would like to take a little bit more time to work on the language of this, but I'm okay if we don't, because I really wanted to get the conflict of interest thing done. I don't think that any changes that we would make if we took another month to work on it would affect their calendar, because I don't have any objection to any of the the timing things. I did want to say on the bylaws thing that yes, the bylaws gives us the power to delegate, which we're doing and we have always done in this sort of case. But this motion also restricts what the board can do. It tries to say that we can't actually question any of these things in an open board meeting. And that's the part that I don't think actually is enforceable. Thanks.
Thank you. Teresa.
I would also like to acknowledge Indigo, Sandra and Indigo and I had an in-person meeting with the coordinators of the two committees. I drove all the way to Eugene for this meeting. So to Ann Bennett Rogers' comment about being in person, it was certainly true that that mattered in this meeting. And I just wanted to make sure to acknowledge the hard work that Indigo did as well.
Thank you. LT.
Wow, thanks for the long drive, Teresa. And yes, the face-to-face and the stakeholder buy-in and the willingness to listen and share. I mean, that's what Country Fair process is all about. And when we apply it, as y'all obviously did, we get good results and we get happy people, and that is the role of fair leadership. And I'm proud of y'all for doing what you did.
Thank you. Paxton.
The board needs the verbose in reality. I don't think necessarily the committee needs it. When you get into the weeds, you also get seeds and of unintended consequences. I prefer things simpler. I'm going to vote for this just because I think it will help the process at the moment, but it's far more complicated than we need. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any more discussion?
I think you skipped me.
Oh, I didn't see you actually somehow. John Gowski, go ahead, please.
I'll be real brief. I think first, before I forget, I want to thank the people that worked on this. I am so grateful that I wasn't on that committee to do this because I know how much work that probably was. So you have my deep appreciation. I think just to move forward, let's pass this and acknowledge that there may be some things, rough edges we need to improve, and somebody can make a motion a month or 2 or 3 from now to amend it. But let's just pass it now and move on. Thank you.
Thank you. Sandra.
Yeah, I wanted to respond to John Steinhardt when he was saying that not being able to change in an open meeting meant that the board didn't have input. And that's just, there's nothing in the bylaws that say that you have to be able to have that input in the actual board meeting, and it can't be in a closed meeting. So I don't think that really is a concern. There's plenty of opportunity for the board to critique and ask questions and give opinions and guidance to the committees as they do this work. It's baked in, so thank you.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion on this motion? Last call. Seeing none, we will go to a vote. John Steinhardt.
I think I'm going to abstain on this because I'm uncomfortable with the non-transparent conflict of interest review.
Okay. Trevor.
Yes.
Sandra.
Yes.
John Davis.
Yes.
Paxton.
Yes.
Felicia.
Yes.
Teresa.
Yes.
Kevin.
Yes, sorry.
John
Yes.
Gowski.
Yes.
LT.
Yes.
AJ.
Yes.
And Indigo is absent. The motion passes unanimously with John Steinhardt abstaining. Moving on to the next motion is the adoption of the consent calendar. Special rule of order. Teresa, you're making the motion. Who would like to second?
I'll second.
Seconded by AJ. Teresa, do you want to begin?
Yes, so I don't know if I used the word friendly amendment, but there was a review and some changing of the language that, can I say it's a friendly amendment and put it in the chat or?
So my recommendation is I would say, being the author of the revised language, I would say it would qualify for a friendly amendment because it doesn't change the meaning of the motion. However, because it substantially since the wording is substantially changed, even though the meaning and function of the motion is not changed, I would recommend it simply be a motion to amend, replacing all the language with this, and we have an abbreviated discussion if everyone is happy with that language, and just amend the motion in a normal fashion. So a friendly amendment is possible, but I wouldn't recommend it just because there's so many words that are changed.
Do I make the motion to amend?
Well, so what I would say is introduce the motion, and then we can go ahead and take the amendment before going to member comments, so members know what we're talking about. How's that?
Okay.
Is there a second?
What's that?
Was there a second?
AJ seconded. Go
For
ahead.
the original motion.
Yeah.
Okay. The original motion is to adopt a special rule of order establishing the use of a consent calendar and I don't know what to do right now. I'm feeling a little bit lost.
Well, so the original motion and what you're going to amend it to do the same thing. So just talk about the consent calendar and it's.
So the idea is to allow the board to consider and approve routine, non-controversial items efficiently in a single action without discussion. Their eligible items for a consent calendar would include committee reports, which we already kind of do. We don't call it a consent calendar, but we still have it there. Work group reports, approval of minutes, routine or administrative matters, agenda approval, approval of new committee member appointments, or other items deemed appropriate by the agenda setting body. The procedure would be the consent calendar would be presented to the board, and any board member may remove any item if they feel that it needs more discussion. That would not require a motion or a vote. Any single objection is sufficient to remove an item from the consent calendar, and they will be considered separately under the appropriate section of the agenda. And if there are no objections, the consent calendar will be adopted in a single motion. Then the new language I'm putting in the chat right now. Did it go, or does it not like that much chat? No, I've exceeded it by 293 words. Okay, I gotta fix that.
I can give you the ability to share your screen if you'd like.
Okay. I can chunk it though. I'm gonna chunk it right now.
You're now a co-host, so you can share your screen.
Okay. What is on my screen? All right.
Do whatever is most comfortable for you, but I have given you the ability.
I'm having teaching during COVID moments right now. We're going to use my thing when I'm teaching. What's on my YouTube channel? Okay. So it is in purple. Do you see it, everybody?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Now, part 4 is also part of it. So that's.
Oh yeah, because that was when I was chunking it. So instead of 7 sections, there are now 4, less verbose for everyone. The first step would be the establishment of a consent calendar. The purpose, the consent calendar is intended to allow the board to consider and approve routine, non-controversial items efficiently in a single action without discussion. The eligible items are the same things I just read. It doesn't look any different to me. The procedure would be the facilitator shall ask if there are any objections to any items included on the consent calendar. Any board member may at that time object to any item on the consent calendar. And so it's just reworded, same content. So am I now making, am amendment to my
So
own.
if you, so the motion is on the floor, and for the interest of efficiency, go ahead and introduce to amend the motion with this language, and then we'll get a second on that and to consider the amendment.
So I propose, I make a motion to amend the motion to what you see in purple.
I'll second that.
Moved by Teresa Vaughn and seconded by John Steinhardt. Can we lose the screen share now? And is there any member input on that? And I will have some member input because I wrote that revised language. The original motion was great and did a fantastic job. There's some stuff just to make it easier. One of the important things about a consent calendar is that by everyone consents, so there's no reason to vote, there's no reason to have a motion, there's no reason to have any motion to take anything off or put anything on, given that every board member has the power to simply remove something from it once all the objections have been heard. There's no reason for any board member to vote against anything that remains on it. So the idea is once the objections have been heard, you abbreviate the process by saying everything then has been accepted as by unanimous consent and move on. So that's how that's why I was able to abbreviate it and I think make it a little more clear. But having a consent calendar is something I strongly advocate for, and I think it's a great move forward for these meetings. Going down, Ann Bennett Rogers, go ahead.
I was wondering if this wasn't part of a franchising of member input, since the decision would be made by the board without any member other than the board members' input. Thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you, Ann. John Pincus.
My concern is the same as Ann Rogers' concern. It's great that a board member can take an item off if they think it needs discussion. But what if a member thinks that it needs discussion? I've seen that happen before. And I think I don't think that is the intent of bringing this motion, but I think it's I think misuse of the motion is entirely possible. Thanks.
Thank you, John. Lisa Cooley.
I don't think this will be popular, but I prefer the original motion rather than the revised.
Thank you. I'm speaking now as a member, not as the facilitator, and I hear that concern about disenfranchisement. These are supposed to be common, non-controversial items, and I will point out that member comments, as far as I could tell, are still going to come before that. And so you can tell board members your displeasure if something is on the consent calendar that probably shouldn't be on there. But a lot of these are things that are really not part of member input anyway, or don't get a lot of member input. And I think that what you're saying is something worthy of consideration about whether or not there should be some member means to object. So in the meantime, thank you. Is there any other member input? Seeing none, we'll go to board discussion. Is there any board discussion? Teresa.
I'm muted. Okay. I just wanted to acknowledge the history. When we were discussing this at the meeting with the committee members, with Indigo and Sandra and the two committees, Indigo brought up the history that a consent calendar was in fact passed. A process was passed by the board in 2010. And so that there is some history with having a consent calendar. It looks a little bit different, and this is a little bit, I think, cleaner version and just being really clear about what it is. But I did want to note that that has been a part of the history of the board.
Thank you. Trevor.
Yeah, I'm very excited that we have this opportunity. it's a very effective way to do our business when it comes to routine things. It's an absolute mirror of the county commissioners and how they operate when it comes to certain activities and certain things that don't need to have input because they're statutorily allowed or otherwise either, not necessary for comment. And they too, one person can raise their hand and say, hey, let's move this off consent. We need to go and we need to talk about this. And so I think this encourages also a little bit of interaction with our membership to the board members as we move toward a meeting. If there's something they really want to get off the consent calendar, it's a good opportunity to get in front of us and reach out to us for the reasons why, and then also come to the meeting before we adopt that. So I think it's a good policy.
Thank you, Trevor. Okay, so I see AJ Paxton and John Govsky. I've let us drift a little bit off. We're acting like the amendment is already passed. So do any of you want to speak specifically to whether or not to amend? Because if not, then we'll go to a vote on the amendment and return to talking about this policy. But if we're talking about the consent calendar policy as opposed to the amendment, we're really sort of jumping around. So AJ, can you hold off, or do you want to talk specifically about the amendment? Can you hear us, AJ?
He put his hand down.
Okay. All right. Is everybody, Paxton, are you okay with that?
Yes.
Okay. Is there any discussion specifically about amending the motion? Any discussion? Any member input? I think we already heard member input on amending the motion. Is there any discussion on amending the motion? Seeing none, is there any objection to amending the motion as presented? I don't think any board member has spoken against it. Is there any objection to adopting the amendment as submitted? Okay, seeing none, the motion is amended. We're going back to discussing now the consent calendar motion as amended. AJ, would you like to speak on that?
Yeah, I was just gonna ask a question. Do we know what time are we saving for doing this, considering we kind of do a version of this already in the beginning of the meetings with the items that were suggested for this consent calendar? And I just want to know, like, I do hear members saying it gives the appearance of something, and I don't want to make changes if there's not going to be a significant reason why we're making that change. And so I was wondering if somebody can clarify a significant reason or impact of why we would make that change versus what we're already doing.
Thanks. John Govsky, sorry, I think I missed you again since we had the hands down, hands up. Did you want to speak to the motion?
Sure. I'm pretty familiar with consent agenda or consent calendar stuff with many other meetings, and it does make things a little more efficient. And the question about member input, so my question would be, maybe Stephen, in the structure of a meeting, would there be an opportunity, would there be a member input time before we decided whether or not we were going to pull something off consent agenda?
So I'm going to ask AJ.
Because I'm not clear on that timing.
Yeah. So I'm going to ask AJ here. Can I participate in the board discussion here, because we do that for like membership secretary on membership things and treasurer for treasurer things.
Yes, as someone that's going to be facilitating this, I think it's important to allow, you can answer questions. Yes.
Okay.
Sure.
So I would say it increases efficiency significantly, because several of these things that we already do by unanimous consent get combined into one thing. And a lot of other things that we tend to end up wanting to just talk about, even though everybody's already in agreement, end up being things that are just consented to and moved along. I do think that hearing members on whether something should be in a consent calendar is not a bad idea, and you could address that in part. It could be in the motion, or it can just be our practice maybe added to the motion later, would be to just ensure that member comments comes before the consent calendar, and the consent calendar is laid out sufficiently for members to know whether or not they should say to the board during member comments, hey, I don't think this should be on the consent calendar. That would be one way to address it. Whether or not members can also remove things from the consent calendar is something you can consider and revise in the future, but this is a pretty normal consent calendar. My revision was simply to streamline it to meet the expectations of what a normal consent calendar process would look like. So I think that in answer to your specific question most directly, I think it can either be the practice, you could write it into the motion. I'm not sure if it's necessary, but my suggestion would be just ensure that member comments comes before the consent calendar, and that the consent calendar is clear on the agenda.
Okay, so with that understanding, I wouldn't have a problem with this. And I don't think it's necessary for a member to have the power to withdraw an item. If they can speak first about their objections, it would only take one board member to say, yeah, let's pull that one as
right.
member's request. So I'm good with it. Thank you.
Thank you. Paxton.
Well, I'm not good with it. I think that it disenfranchises the membership. I'm actually more interested in trying to include more people in the meetings rather than less. I would rather have more discussion rather than less. I personally miss the committee reports being done in person. I think that helps communicate to the membership. I think this really does it generates efficiencies for the board, yes, but I think that's a mistake. I think we need to really work on communicating with the membership and listening to the membership more than we're doing. At the moment, it comes down as executive decisions made, not necessarily popular with the membership in the field out there. So I was involved in the original consent calendar. It was when I was on the board. I don't think it actually worked very well, in my opinion, but it does save board time. The key is I don't think we should be saving board time. I think we need to interact with the membership more, and I think this limits it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Teresa Vaughn.
Well, ironically, this came from the members. So this was a critical issue for the two committees when we were coming up with the ratification. This is how my whole energy in the conflict in the consent calendar started. That they wanted it to be on a consent calendar. And then that kind of just mushroomed into, if we're going to go to a consent calendar, let's just do it right. So I really appreciate the idea of not disenfranchising people. I agree that if member comments can come first, that members would still have the power, because as John Jagovsky said, if one person agrees with that, and I don't think that would ever be an issue, that we would pull it off the consent calendar.
Thank you. Trevor Ross.
Yeah, I think it balances input and our ability to do basic work. We have 12 people here. All it takes is one is to move it. And I think, real issues aren't going to be consented down. Real issues are going to be debated, and real issues are going to be voted on. And having the membership input prior to it is essential. But I think it's a way for us to do some good business that's routine, to get at the things that are harder and give us more time to work on the hard stuff and more time to listen.
Thank you. John Gosky.
I just wanted to respond to Paxton, because I agree, Paxton, that we need to be more interacting with the members, which is ironically why I kind of think it's better to be really efficient about the process stuff that we don't need to spend a lot of time on. I think it's up to us to figure out if this is more efficient, how to take that extra time and be more interactive with the members. But if you look at the structure of our meetings over the past whenever, we spend an awful lot of time talking about amendments to amendments and motions and a lot of Robert's rules kind of procedural stuff and we have to do that, I guess. But I think if we can minimize some of that stuff, we can be more productive and focus our energy in member concerns and not all the process stuff that we get bogged down in. So it's in that spirit that I support this. Thanks.
Thank you. I see some names duplicated, like John Govsky's here that just spoke. So I hope I've got the list right here. Sandra is my next person.
Okay, yeah, I wanted to expand a little bit on why the philanthropic committees wanted it to be on the consent calendar. They're very concerned about having an open, free-ranging discussion about the grants that were being approved. It's normally done in a, or it's frequently at least done on a consent calendar basis where, all of the work is done pre-meeting in terms of whatever kind of questions or concerns. And so that it's more professional at that point when you come into the meeting and it's, and it's approved. And it was really a very important piece for them, and we were trying to figure out how to make that work for both the organization and for the it's really how you present yourself to the public, and having people who are coming and asking for grants, and they really were very protective of the people that have been applying and how they would be treated. And I think that is really important for us to consider. And the consent calendar is pretty low profile. I mean, we're not talking about things that are normally even discussed, by the membership. So I do like the idea that they have the opportunity in advance. If they have questions, they can bring it up, and the board can respond to that or not. So thank you.
Thank you. John Steinhardt.
Yeah, first of all, I have to say what Govsky said. I do think it lets us get the administrative stuff out of the way easily. With regards to what Paxton said, I talked to a lot of members because of the other volunteer work I do for the fair. I've talked about a dozen today. Exactly one of whom said, yes, I'll be paying attention to the board meeting tonight. So I know we have an issue with getting people involved, but I don't think the issue is how we conduct our meetings. It's people making the time and being interested in being involved. But anyway, I want to thank Teresa and Sandra and Indigo and all the people that really put a lot of work into this, because I think it does make a lot of sense. I think it leaves us more time to discuss the important issues when they come up that need a lot of time. Thanks.
Thank you. Kevin Levy. I assume, John, when I'm skipping you over there, you had just spoken, so that's an extra John Govsky on the list. Yeah. Kevin.
Right, thanks. Yeah, the list was kind of weird because I've teleported back to my office now. I like this. I try and look at it from that kind of perspective. If it's saving time on this front end, so to speak, then it could create more time within the space we have to possibly have more member input or more member engagement. And that's how I look at it. And so I think it's something we should definitely try out. And if it feels like it doesn't work, again, we can try something else. But I think if used correctly, it could create some more opportunity for that. And I'd love to see that happen as well. We're talking like increased times, things like that. I don't want to make promises or anything, but I think it's something that we can do to make our time more efficient. I think it's definitely worth it. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Teresa.
So I think this is the right process to honor what Paxton brought up and what some of the members brought up, and Govsky, it reiterated, and John Steinhardt as well. Can we amend number 4 to state the member input portion of the meeting shall always come before the consent calendar?
Is the first sentence to the section?
Yes.
We just need to know where it goes. So that's where for a sentence. So add at the beginning of section 4, the member input portion of the meeting shall always come before the consent calendar. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Is there any member input on that? Specifically on adding that the consent calendar shall always come after member input. Okay, seeing no member input, we'll go to board discussion. Is there any board discussion? Don't feel like there has to be any.
Yes, sorry, I'm having a hard time putting my hand up.
You have your hand up for the adding that sentence?
I have my hand up for board discussion on this.
On the adding the sentence, the amendment.
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think that alleviates my concern that that members or who might have something to say who didn't get to see the it before this meeting tonight have input on it. I would also like to add something else, but I'm going to leave it to see how it works. I hope this works out well, and if we need to go back and tweak it later, we go back and tweak it. But I'll vote for it.
Thank you. Is there any other discussion specifically on the amendment to add that the member input will always come before the consent calendar? Seeing no board discussion, we'll go to well, I'll ask is there any objection? No one has spoken against it. Is there any objection to accepting this amendment? Last call. Seeing none, the amendment is adopted by unanimous consent, and the motion now adds that sentence to the beginning of section 4. We're back to discussing the main motion as amended. LT.
Thanks. I share Paxton's perspective on this. I share the concerns of the members, and I think that Goski did a good job of addressing why this is probably still a good thing. While I suppose it's not impossible that we could end up with a 12-member board that would act in lockstep and ignore member input regarding matters that the members considered controversial, I think it is unlikely. But even in the event that such a thing should occur, we have elections, so I think that the democratic system is self-correcting. So I'm going to support the motion.
Thank you. AJ.
Oh, one other thing. Hold on.
Oh,
one
go
other
ahead.
thing. I noticed that committee member appointments were listed among the things theoretically thought to be non-controversial. I can tell you for sure they're not always.
They're not always, but any board member can remove an item. So, AJ.
I call the question.
Is there any further discussion? Is there anyone else who's going to want to speak? If not, we can just proceed directly to a vote on the motion. I don't have anyone in queue, so is there anyone who wants to speak to the motion? Okay, seeing there's no more discussion, AJ, we're just going to go straight to voting on the motion.
Real quick, just for procedure wise, did I do something wrong there? And call
No, you didn't do anything wrong, but for what you're doing, we would vote on whether or not to end the discussion. If no one else wants to talk, we can skip that and just vote on the motion.
Gotcha.
So, but no, what you did was perfectly fine, terrific, and feel free to do it again in the future. Okay, so given that discussion has ended, we are voting on the motion for the consent calendar as amended. John Steinhardt.
Yes, and thank you, Teresa, for that great amendment.
Trevor.
Yes.
Sandra.
Yes.
John Davis.
Yes.
Paxton.
Philosophically opposed, no.
No. Felicia.
Yes.
Teresa.
Yes.
Kevin.
Yes.
John Govsky.
Yes.
LT.
Yes.
AJ.
Yes.
Motion passes with Paxton voting no and Indigo absent. Moving on to the next item of business. How are we doing for time?
We should do a time check.
We should do a time check.
I mean, we should probably add another 10 minutes.
How about we go to 9:30 and say we don't have to use it all, just so we don't have to keep doing it.
Sounds good.
So is
You
there
know-
any objection to extending the meeting to 9:30 if necessary?
I object. Because we're only doing the committee appointments at this point. We only have that to go.
Okay, well, we can go up to a few minutes before 9 and see if we don't have any controversy.
The bylaws is still on the agenda because we haven't postponed it yet.
Assuming that we postpone it. But
Let's check back. Let's check back in.
Let's check back in 10 minutes. How's that?
Yes.
Okay, so the next item on the agenda is the appointment of Bethany Fandino, Ann Olivia Eldred, Warren Brown, and Miranda Maris to the Elections Committee. Who would like to make the motion?
I'll
Make
move.
that motion.
Moved by Paxton. Who would like to second?
Sure. Second.
I'll second.
Who was the first one? I think AJ? Was it?
Go ahead. You can put Sandra. So.
Okay. So moved by Paxton and seconded by Sandra. Who would like to introduce the appointments?
I'm trying to find the name.
Kirsten can.
Yeah, I
Sure.
will. Not
How about
really.
that? Sure.
Obviously, I don't make motions, but what I can tell you is prior to the departure of our last membership secretary, he had these candidates approved by the election committee for appointment, and I am just following this through. I have met with them and asked them if they wanted me to follow this through in the absence of a membership secretary, and they said yes. Thank you.
Okay. Is there any member input on these appointments? Any member input? Lisa Cooley.
Yahoo. Thank you. Awesome. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Any other member input? Last call for member input. Is there any board discussion on these appointments? John Govsky.
I just want to say thank you to people that are willing to serve the fair. It is what makes everything work, and it's just like that is where the real work happens. So thank you, folks. I really appreciate it.
And Paxton.
I'm glad to see people willing to be involved in committee work. The Elections Committee does actually quite a bit of work going through over the years, and I really respect their work. I appreciate getting the committee up to speed. Thank you very much.
Thank you. John Steinhardt.
Well, I've got to be quicker on the hand because Govsky keeps saying what I want to say ahead of me, but maybe we'll alternate board meetings on this. But yeah, I just want to thank people for stepping up and being willing to volunteer. It's a great way to learn more about how the sausage happens.
Thank you. LT.
Yeah, I support 3 of these nominees, and those are the 3 who were, in fact, endorsed by the Elections Committee. The way I read the Elections Committee letter that is in the board packet, they endorsed 3 and they left it to the board on the 4th. One of the nominees here is not even a member of the fair. And while the bylaws do not yet require membership for committee appointments, I think they ought to, but it's been the practice, to my knowledge, certainly in respect to the Elections Committee, and generally that folks on our committees are members of this organization in this community. And so I will support this motion if it's the 3 who are members. And also, we've generally made it a practice to appoint folks who have received the endorsement of the committee. And again, if you take a look at that letter, I don't think I read it wrong, that there were 3 endorsed and 1 that was not opposed, but simply not endorsed. And again, because of their lack of membership in the organization.
Okay, so there is a process. You are able to move to separate one of these individuals.
So
for
moved.
separate consideration, because without doing so, it's either all or none.
So moved in respect to Miranda Maris.
Okay, so LT moves to separate Miranda Maris from the motion. Is there a second?
I'll second. I'd
Yes,
like to hear more, but
I'll second that too.
Okay. Is there any member input on this motion to separate Miranda Maris? Seeing none, is there any board discussion on the motion to separate Miranda Maris? Well, go ahead, Lisa.
Sorry, I'm slow as a hand. Well, I know a couple of these people, and just because you're not a member doesn't mean you haven't been there for a while. I have several people that are on my crew that have been on my crew for 20 years and they haven't been a member, unfortunately. I just think I say yes, yes, yes to all of it. My opinion.
Thank you. Okay, board discussion. Is there any board discussion on separating Miranda Maris for separate consideration?
Before we do that, Stephen, can we
Yeah.
get clarification if she has it from Kirsten? I think clarification on what this person's attachment to the fair is. Have they been going? Are they members or been working?
I guess it's
at the
relevant if
fair
it would
without?
affect. So I guess it's relevant if it would affect your vote on whether or not to separate her. So can you elaborate at all, Kirsten, on her?
No, I stand by what the elections committee submitted in their letter of support,
Does that satisfy AJ?
which says it's up to the board if they want that fourth person.
Does that satisfy AJ for what you're asking us we can do?
I do
Okay.
not personally know Miranda Maris at all, so I don't know. I could look her up and see what she does for the fair, but I'm not sure that's for public consumption. Thank you.
I think that information is pertinent to this vote and to this motion. To see if this person has been an active person in our community versus just not having somebody that's just from the outside that's never been to fair or whatever. I think that information is important.
So, okay, we'll give you a second.
I can read her letter that she submitted to people.
Yeah, I was going to comment on her letter.
Yeah, please.
Okay, so I guess what I'm going to say right now is, if all of this, we could separate her for separate consideration and then read her letter and do all of that. So really, I'm asking, is the conversation relevant to whether or not to separate? It's probably just as easy to separate her, and then you can still support her, right?
She
So
is not registered in our database. Let's put it that way.
she's not in the database.
No.
Okay. So, do we want to hear this letter for the purpose of discussing separation, or do we want to go ahead and move on with the motion to separate and then discuss Miranda Maris separately?
I do think we should hear the letter before we vote on anything.
Okay. Can we go ahead and do that then, Sandra?
Okay. Miranda Maris, it was so nice to meet and chat with you all on Tuesday evening. Thank you for your patience on the below request. Here is a bit about me. My name is Miranda Maris, and I currently live up in Portland. I moved to Oregon a little over 5 years ago from New England and really love so many things about it here. I love all things outside, especially plants and moss. I have 2 cats, Cricket and Shiloh, who I spend a lot of time with. I like to read fantasy novels, move my body in ways that feel fun, and I'm currently learning the piano and Spanish. I really value genuine connection and spend a lot of time with friends, making food and playing board games. Last year, 2025, was my first year attending OCF. I had such a transformative experience and was really able to get lost in the world that OCF nourishes and provides. I haven't volunteered with the fair before, but I'm excited with the prospect to get involved and always open to additional ways to help if there is space for me to do so. I want to be on the OCF elections committee to get involved. I love to volunteer, and when I saw the call for help, I was happy to jump on the opportunity. I come to you all with many years of administrative experience, including data entry, communications, organization, plus operations, work with CRMs, and much more. I tend to be a quick learner and always open to helping however I can. It sounds like a good fit. I'd love to be a good fit. Thank you so much for the consideration. Thanks again for the opportunity. I hope you're having a great week.
Thank you. So we are specifically discussing whether or not to separate Miranda Maris for separate consideration. Kevin Levy.
I know CIA plants when I hear them, folks, and she's one of them. She's coming to get us. And so, I don't know, for me, catching her in her first year is transformative. She wants to jump in. Like, who else is jumping in there? I'm always open to folks that are ready to try, and so I don't know. I'll go with whatever y'all feel on this, but really, um, I just say the more the merrier. So I'm kind of a fan of that all the time because finding volunteers is tough. For all we know, she might try it and might not be for her, and that's okay. But what if it is? And what if it's the best thing she ever done and she grows with the organization and becomes a part of it and everything else? And so, um, I'm open to her, but it's up to you guys. Thanks.
Thank you. All right, I'm going to ask, is there any objection to extending the meeting to 9:30 but not having to go that long? We're like 5 minutes to 10 right now. Any objection? Hearing none, the meeting is extended to 9:30, but we don't have to go that long. LT.
Thanks.
Specifically on separation.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I'd really want to vote for the nominees that were supported by the elections committee. If those three nominees will double the size of the committee, probably could use more. This is not a reflection on the personal qualities of this person who has come to the fair once during the day. It is a matter of what we think the fundamental minimal qualifications are to join a committee in this community. And I will support fixing that in the bylaws. But in the meantime, we have a clear endorsement from the elections committee for three folks. I'd like the opportunity to vote for those three folks. And in order to do that, we need to separate.
Thank you. Paxton.
I support separation. I'd like to vote on it separately. Thank you.
Thank you. John Steinhardt.
I have to give Miranda points for actually seeing that there was a call out for committee, which actually kind of makes me think that that's somebody that's paying attention, which we need more of. I don't support separating it out because at least my reading of the room says it's not going to affect the vote. And I do want to point out that while it's maybe slightly different, our last membership secretary had really almost no connection to the fair when they started, and they worked out fine. I think they had volunteered or been a guest in a booth for 1 year, if I remember right, before becoming membership secretary, which was actually a much more responsible job than being a committee member because it was a solo job. This is going to be a committee with 8 or 9 people on it. And if they don't work out, then appropriate action can be taken. But I think it's actually fine. And I'm glad somebody is paying attention and willing to stand up and volunteer.
Thank you. John Davis.
So I was recently talking to someone, and I'm always encouraging people to get more involved with the country fair. And they said, wow, for an inclusive event, this is really an exclusive event. And it's sort of, charmed me a little bit. And it reminded me that there's a lot of people that would like to get involved. And I just support what Kevin said about the more the merrier. And I think if she didn't work out, there's ways to make changes. And so I support her being a nominee. Thank you.
Okay. I want to remind, we are talking specifically about whether or not to separate her. Whether or not to approve her as a committee member is somewhat of a separate issue. She could still be, we can all approve her as a committee member, even if she's considered separately from the other three. Sandra.
Yeah, I don't want to separate her. I mean, I think that there's nothing that says they have to be a member. This is a new requirement that we have not made. And I didn't read the letter from the elections committee the same way that you did, LT. I felt that they were recommending her, but they did realize that she didn't have a lot of fair experience and didn't know and that was for the board to decide whether that would be appropriate or not. And I do think, you know, in reading her letter, that she had a lot of skills and experience that would be excellent on that committee. So I'm in favor of keeping her in the mix. Thank you.
Thank you. AJ, again, we're specifically
Yes.
about separation.
Yeah, I don't want to separate her from this group. I go back to the discussion we just had in a previous section of our meeting tonight where we were talking about disenfranchising volunteers. What does it say to like somebody who jumped in, had her first experience with us, has all these skills, and we're like, no, you don't have enough to be a part of us, right? Or we're gonna be like, hey, we have to think extra hard about you volunteering versus other people volunteering. I think it's the wrong message. I think anybody that wants to be a part of this after seeing this experiment and still wants to step up in the way that she's asking to step up, I think we should welcome them with open arms. And I think that should be the message from the top down.
Thank you. John Govsky.
Well, on separation, it's a tough one for me because I think we should look back on this conversation when we have a future discussion on whether or not we want terms for committee members, because, I mean, essentially voting on a lifetime appointment for someone I don't know anything about. So that's what gives me pause, because we vote on lifetime appointments for committee members. So I don't have a problem saying yes. It's such a great thing when people want to volunteer. I mean, everything about me wants to make it easy for people to volunteer. So in that spirit, I don't want to separate. But I think we should think back on this about, you know, the concept of lifetime committee appointments. Thanks.
Thank you. So is there any other discussion? I have no one in the queue. So I'll remind, if you vote yes to separate, there will still be a discussion about Miranda Maris, and you can still approve her to be on the committee. So this is simply a vote on whether or not to consider one of these candidates, which should carry no disparaging views. It's simply a question of whether or not to consider one candidate separately from the other three. That's what we're voting on. We're going to proceed to a vote. John Steinhardt.
No, assuming that means no separation.
No separation. No means to not separate. Trevor.
No.
Sandra.
No.
John Davis.
No.
Paxton.
Yes.
Felicia.
No.
Teresa.
Yes.
Kevin.
No.
John Govsky.
No.
LT.
Yes.
AJ.
No.
Motion fails with John Steinhardt, Trevor Ross, Sandra Bauer, John Davis, Felicia, Kevin Levy. Sorry, I don't have my normal ruled paper here to line names up. John Govsky and AJ voting no. So we are back to the appointment of all four members. Is there any discussion on the appointment of all four members, all four people to the committee? Raise your hand in chat. John Steinhardt.
I would just say thanks, John Govsky, for reminding me. I would be happy to amend this if you were in favor to make these 3-year appointments. But other than that, I'm happy to vote for it as is.
Thank you. Paxton.
I do think it was wise that members of the committees be members of the fair, but I'll vote for this motion.
LT.
I look forward to amending the bylaws appropriately, and also I would look forward to a procedure in which we can consider all appointments individually. However, in the aggregate, the costs outweigh the risks, and I'll vote yes.
Thank you. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, we'll go to a vote. This is a vote on appointing all 4 of these individuals to the Elections Committee. John Steinhardt,
Yes.
Trevor,
Yes.
Sandra,
Yes.
John Davis,
Yes.
Paxton,
Yes.
Felicia,
Yes.
Teresa,
Yes.
Kevin,
Yes.
John Govsky,
Yes.
LT,
Yes.
AJ,
Yes.
and the motion passes unanimously. Moving on to the revising of the September 28, 2025 amended and restated bylaws. Who'd like to make the motion?
I will.
Who's seconding?
I'll second.
Moved by John Steinhardt and seconded by AJ. Do you want to describe the motion, John Steinhardt?
Sure. It's mainly a bunch of technical fixes for the most part to make it easier to deal with membership and voting in the electronic age. There's really not a lot of substantive policy differences here, in my opinion. This is really just about, the biggest change in there is to make it possible for us to remove members from the voting rolls because they haven't voted or attended the fair in years, even if we don't have good contact information for them. And it also makes a number of small changes. If I remember right, the bylaws currently say that if you need to change your address, you have to send a piece of mail to the membership secretary that will, who will then go update your address in our rolls. But while we're not precluding that, most people that have a change of address just update it online now and don't have, there's no reason to require them to mail something to the membership secretary and make work when it really doesn't need to get done. There's a couple of other changes. One of the ones that I think we've gotten a little bit of feedback on is it does change our notice provision. And this is, to say that we're going to give notice by posting things on the FAIR website. And I do want to point out that that's generally, at some level what we do right now, that ORS 65, and sorry, I didn't really get to read it this afternoon, has language about, like notifying people by putting in a publication that we send to the membership. I think it actually is pretty clear that it has to be sent. And we haven't done that in years. That the most you get as a member now is a email that says, hey, the Fair Family News are on the website. You can go read them if you want to. I know that's not the exact language of it. So it basically says that, there's nothing in here that says we're not going to try to contact people, that we're not going to try to, email them or send them postal mail if we want to, if we're having trouble to get a hold of them. But it actually just tightens up what our legal obligations are a little bit. It also removes, I think, the proxy language, which didn't really belong in there in the first place, in my opinion, and isn't necessary, and a bunch of other things. But it's primarily to make sure that we can conduct most of our business around membership and elections online, since people have to be online to get their credentials and everything else for the fair. So that's an unorganized summary.
Okay. Now,
Oh,
were you planning to postpone this, and do you want to do we want to move on to member input, or is there been already a consensus to postpone?
Unless we're really out of time, I think since this is a bylaws change, I would love to get any member input now that we could consider ahead of next month.
Sure.
One thing I forgot is that I am planning to make an amendment at the next meeting because one of our members actually read the bylaws carefully and found a mistake. And it's a pretty minor one, that we have the wrong section number listed in a reference. And I will be planning to make an amendment at the next meeting to fix that while we're at it. Thanks.
And that would be appropriate for a friendly amendment. So I see Hillary raised her hand. Did you want to speak to this bylaws motion as a member?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
So I'm glad we're going to electronic voting, but I am very concerned about implementing the change, the timing of the change to disenfranchise people who don't vote or that we can't communicate with. In Chalamela, I handle the Sunshine data entry, and that's about 160 people. And some of the people that we imported from the virtual sticker booth had bad email addresses. So when they got the notification that came out of the virtual sticker booth, they didn't know that. And then there was, you end up with this loop that you try to communicate with people with the email address that's in there, and it goes to a bad email address or an email address that they never check anymore, or an email address that had a data entry error in it. And we don't have any way to communicate with them because we're using that database to communicate with them. I'm aware for elections that Jeffrey, and John and his crew put in a tremendous amount of energy to try to get a clean membership set. But what we didn't do is test all the email addresses and go through a process to make sure that we don't have a significant number of people in there with bad email addresses. And that could happen from data entry. It could happen from bringing the wrong person in if you couldn't see the email address, or it could have been from leftover from the virtual sticker booth. And I think that it's essential that we go through a process to make sure that we have good email addresses before we say, and they can just update it themselves, because they might not even know they have a bad email address, and they didn't even know that to expect an email address from Sunshine, because there are a lot of people who don't listen to board meetings, don't read the minutes, aren't members, but who participate every year. So that's my main concern. Let's not disenfranchise people. Let's go a little bit slower. Let's work on that data set. Let's get all the bugs out of the system before let's not get ahead of ourselves. Thanks.
You're muted, Stephen. Stephen, you're muted.
How did I get muted? I don't think I did that. Oh, I did that to drink water. Kirsten, can you confirm how much time Ann and Lisa have?
Lisa has 2 minutes, a little more than that, but I can't do incrementals. And Ann has 1:30.
Okay, so Ann, go ahead.
Thank you, Kirsten, for my time limit. I feel that there are a few limited things in here in these proposed bylaws changes. I had not thought of what Hillary mentioned, and thank you, Hillary, for mentioning that stuff. You also, Molly also sent my dog off, and she's outside looking for Molly. Anyway, I am concerned that things can be posted on the .net site 7 days in advance. And right now, or this past weekend or so, there was no internet at fair. So how could you check 7 days ahead of time, let alone being out in the frickin' middle of nowhere? Thank you very much. And thank you guys for all the work you're doing, especially with the bylaws.
Thank you. Lisa.
I'm so sorry. Hillary basically asked my same question. So thank you, Hillary. I'm really sorry. I can't figure out how to put my hand down.
Okay, you're good.
Thank you.
Sue.
I also have concerns about communicating what's happening just by going to the .net page. Not everybody has stable internet. Not everybody can check it every 7 days. There are folks I know who lack computers and laptops and cell phones, and I think it disenfranchises our membership and seems fairly cold. I think we can do better, a whole lot better, than just limiting it to the .net page. Thank you.
Thank you. Lisa?
Sorry. I wanted to add to what Hillary had said. I'm a solution girl. How in the world can we get correct emails anymore? I just don't I don't see a bigger picture of how we can actually communicate with people. unless it's a direct message from Sunshine to their phone, let's say. I'm just throwing it out there. I don't know how we can do it.
Thank you. I'm going to raise. Go ahead,
I think
Lisa.
you missed. I think you skipped.
Who did I skip? Oh, Lisa. Well, she raised her hand. I didn't. I guess I didn't see her. Go ahead.
Hi. So I I think it's a really good idea to update the bylaws to be in keeping with having hybrid elections. It will help smooth the process for everybody involved, the members, the membership secretary, the elections committee, etc. I just don't think that we need to be in a big hurry. There's no rush. There's no reason that we cannot have our hybrid elections with the bylaws as they are. I do support getting rid of the proxy language simply because that was in there when our elections were tied to the membership meeting. That is no longer the case, so therefore we do not need to have that language in there. So it doesn't hurt anything to go ahead and get rid of that. However, changing the notice requirement, I think that that's a little bit more than just housekeeping. I think that that is a major policy change that the membership has an interest in. And I would like to see this talked about more with the membership before the board makes a decision on that. Thank you.
Thank you. I raised my hand. I'm speaking as a member, not as a facilitator, and I just I want to say that I'm not speaking directly to 7 days or anything like that, because I do think we need to work really hard at being more inclusive by making it easier for people to be informed, by push rather than pull, by not expecting people to have to go to a website and click 4 links in to be informed and then saying, hey, it was on the website, you should have known. But I will say it has to be, the communication has to be reasonable, and we require all of our crew members to use email and to make sure that they can receive our emails and to log into our crew website and to have their account on Sunshine squared away. And I think that that if you don't make it, if it isn't necessary, people don't do it. And I think it's important to say, you got to have a reasonable way to communicate. Email is a reasonable way to communicate. And so whatever rules we come up with should be around saying, hey, you need to have these things and you need to use them, and we need to get those, we need to be attentive to getting those things corrected, email addresses and so forth, and make the system work. Can't just expect it to just start working on its own. So that's my input. That's mostly in context to how to review a lot of these bylaws things, not specifically about 7-day limits and stuff contained in that. Is there any other member input? Last call for member input. Okay, seeing none, we'll go to board discussion. LT?
Thanks. I support virtually all of the portions of this. I know it's listed as revision. I think amendment is the appropriate title for changes to the bylaws. But I can support all of this at this point, with the exception of the change in the notice requirements for the reasons stated by Hillary, by Lisa, and otherwise by Stephen. I think that I have some process issues as well as substantive issues. I think that the bylaws committee did recommended that a lot of this comes through and that some of it wait and get some more work and some more consideration for the membership. There has been a gap. There's not a direct communication between the bylaws committee and the fair's attorney, which I think is problematic in all kinds of ways. That wasn't always the case. Fair attorney used to be a member of the community and actively participated in the committee, and I think that was helpful. Again, I think that the notice thing really requires some further consideration. It requires, I would say, a transitional period. I'm not saying that ultimately we'll want to end up with something like that. Stephen's expression of push versus pull, I thought really was a nice, clear way of expressing the concern. And so, as I said, I'd like to see that portion extracted.
Oh.
Thank you. Is there any other board discussion? John Steinhardt.
Yeah, first of all, I want to thank everybody for their input. I'm glad we had time to do this discussion tonight. I do want to say that we have pretty much vetted the email addresses in the system. That I think the big problem with what Hillary is talking about, if somebody is not using an email address that is still valid, that something will get lost. But we actually do reports and notifications, and if we send somebody an email and it bounces, you'll see a little red triangle next to their email address that says it's bad. One of the things that we're really not changing here is the bylaws currently say that it's your responsibility to keep the fair up to date with your contact information. It's not our job to chase you down and say, did you move? We're not changing that. It's exactly the same. For the comments that were made about, if somebody's in the middle of nowhere and doesn't have service of any kind, well, then they're not going to get our carrier pigeon either. If there's somebody is completely unreachable, we can't reach them. And that's part of the reason for this provision, is to make it not our responsibility to find people that can't be reached. As I said earlier, making this change doesn't mean we won't try to reach people. We have new stuff we've built to make it easier to contact people than we've had before. And I expect we would continue to do that. There's no reason that we wouldn't keep trying to reach people. And just to Lisa's comment, you can't do everything for everybody. I mean, I have looked at what it would take to direct message people's phones. It would cost the fair too much money, and it wouldn't work for me because I live in the middle of nowhere and I wouldn't get those messages. So, but anyway, I appreciate the input, and we'll think about it ahead of the next meeting.
Okay, so this motion has not been postponed. It is still.
Okay. I will move to postpone at this point if I can
postpone it to when?
To the July meeting.
Second. Is there a second? So moved by John Steinhardt and seconded by Lawrence Taylor to postpone this to the July meeting. Is there any member input on postponement? Let's keep it brief. We only got 10 minutes. We're less than 10 minutes. Seeing none, is there any board discussion on postponement? Last call. Given that, is there any objection to postponement by unanimous consent? Seeing none, the motion is postponed to the July meeting by unanimous consent. It should appear at the top of old business next meeting. And the new business is defined membership eligibility and language in the bylaws. Section 5(2)(a) to be as having a wristband or a worker day pass associated with the individual by the end of July following the fair in the fair's database. Next board meeting is Sunday, June 28th, 2026 at 4 p.m. via Zoom. Are we okay with skipping meeting evaluation due to the lack of time? AJ?
Yes.
Okay, and so President's Piece.
I had a president's piece ready, but since the members can't speak, I will end it tonight. You guys all have a great night, and I will see you at the July meeting. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Sorry, Ann and Lisa, we were sort of zipping through it, but I don't know if you wanted to speak to the postponement, but I hope you're okay with this meeting's adjourned.
Well,
she's saying the July meeting is listed twice at different times.
Yes. On the .NET site.
Kirsten, can
And
you?
it says that it's on Zoom only.
I just have.
Can you unmute?
Quick comment.
It is via Zoom only. That is for sure. Let me look at the .NET site real quick, because it is the 28th at 4 p.m. Could just be a typo that we can clear up tomorrow. Yeah, I see it June 28th, Board of Directors meetings, 4 to 6 p.m. I don't know where else you're seeing it, Ann. I'm looking at the calendar and I only see it once.
All right. If you guys
Okay.
can follow up, and if you can follow up with the office afterwards, and we can let people go for this evening.
Yeah.
All right. Have
All
a good
right.
night, everyone.
Okay, so, okay, so that, with that, the meeting is adjourned.
Thanks, guys. If Lisa's still there, I'm happy to hear what she wanted to say anyway.
Thanks, everybody. Good night.